creative tourism, what could we say that have been the achievements?
The achievements of creative tourism over the last 2 decades. I think the main achievement is that the concept has continued to grow. It has reached more people, and it has also changed a lot as it has developed. So the useful thing about creative tourism is that people could take the basic concept, the idea of involving tourists creatively in the places that they go to and making contact with creative people in the destination. That basic idea has taken off, and it has been transformed by the different places that have developed creative tourism. So there are no two creative destinations which are the same. So it has also managed to work against the serial reproduction of culture that we see in traditional cultural tourism, for example.
Do you have any examples of this that you would like to highlight?
Yes, I've got lots of examples. Can't think of any yet. No. Examples of successful creative tourism programs. There's lots which have been successful in different ways. An interesting platform, for example, is the town of Lule in Portugal, which has built up a whole program of workshops and events built around different aspects of creativity linked to the town and the region. So you've got cooking, crafts, and all these kind of things where people can actually get involved in the daily life of the destination, make things which are interesting for them. Maybe they just want to eat them, but you can also make your own souvenirs to take home, which provides you also with a link with the destination. So that's been one of the successful examples.
Precisely, in addition to the link with the destination's DNA, what other criteria would be essential to characterize a creative tourism experience?
I don't know if there's anything essential other than doing something with creativity which is characteristic of the place that you're in. Of course, you can do all sorts of creative activities wherever you are, but if there's no link with the place that you're in, then it's not really creative tourism. So the important thing is to think about the creative DNA of the place and to understand what is engaging for tourists, but at the same time, what provides them with a link with the destination. So the destination itself has to be creative in thinking about what elements of its own creativity can be interesting for other people. And very often this is an interesting learning exercise for the destination as well, because things that you never realised were interesting because you see them every day, suddenly if you look at them through the eyes of the tourist, then they become much more interesting for the locals as well. So one of the phenomena that we see is that quite a lot of these creative tourism programs are actually very popular with local people who want to use it as a new lens for looking at their own culture. And of course, this has become even more important since the pandemic, because when we couldn't travel, suddenly we had to engage more with the places we were in. People did tourism in their own city, tourism in their own region, and that led to a rediscovery of culture and creativity close to where people are.
Precisely. Did the pandemic had any effect on maybe switching creative tourism from a niche to something closer to the mainstream?
I think time will tell whether that is the case. I think in some places at least, we saw an increased interest in these kinds of developments. So one would expect that in some destinations there would be a growth in creative tourism, thinking about new possibilities that would transform cultural tourism, for example, and that might well give a boost in the post-COVID period.
And precisely can say that creative tourism is now also, in addition to be a segment in itself, an added value to other segments?
It can always provide added value for other kinds of activities. And it's not often the case that people will go to a destination only to do one or two creative activities. They usually want to have creativity as part of a broader experience of being in a place. So it can add a very important dimension to all sorts of destinations, which are interesting in their own right, as places where you can experience nature or coast or more traditional forms of cultural tourism, for example.
And last, hoping that Sting is not too much, what would be the advice for tourism industry to include creative tourism experiences within the channels in order to preserve this authenticity, maybe, but converting it into a business model?
Yeah. I think one of the issues is whether creative tourism development should be tourism led or creative led, and I tend to veer towards the creative led creative tourism model, because I think from a tourism perspective, you can bring people to a destination, you can give them a good experience, but you're not necessarily engaged with creativity. I think you have to develop an interesting creative product, creative experience first, and to think about how that fits with the DNA of the destination. And then you can put together all of the aspects of the travel package, if you like.